Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Do it right now. Also, check out our podcast below in the description.
So here's the other thing we're going to consider, though. It sounds like maybe we've kind of given up on picking the Raider game as our Week 1 lock. We'll see. The other thing we have to consider, I mentioned it, Tyrell Williams is out for the year. Surgery on a torn labrum. He's on IR, so he's done. I don't think he was going to be the guy that everyone thought was necessarily the key to the Raiders season. He had fewer catches last year than Hunter Renfrow. But, I mean, he was an impact player for them. He scored 6 touchdowns, 6'4". He's a big target. And I think we've talked about Henry Ruggs a lot. One thing, and you made the point to me before the podcast, one guy that a lot of the Raider reporters have been talking and tweeting a lot about is Bryan Edwards. He almost kind of gets lost just because they took Henry Ruggs, but they did take – you tell me, John, you take a third-round receiver, which is what he is. You're expecting that guy to be an impact player early. I guess if you're him or you're Ruggs, you're like, all right, more touches for us. But
the guy they drafted right before him, Lynn Bowden Jr., the dude from Kentucky, is like a little chess piece for him. So there's a decent chance on opening weekend, beside Josh Jacobs, who started last year, and Darren Waller, who, listen, he was excellent last year, but he is a one-year wonder as of right now. They are going to be depending on 3 wide receivers to go with Hunter Renfrow. Right? Because Tyrell Williams has a long track record when he was with the Chargers. Like, to me, if you put him with all those guys, I'd feel really good about their offense. For example, like Debo and DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown last year, who I think we all think are going to be studs, it took them a little while. Like, it's hard. They're going to be asking all these guys to produce because they're going to need them. And at the end of the day, like, you can only throw so many quick slants and outs to Hunter Renfrow. Like, his numbers are going to be pretty, right? He's not going to have 7 catch for 180. Like, his numbers are, he's an 8 for 88, right? It's just the slot guy when you're Jarvis Landry, when you're Edelman, even when you're a baller. And Hunter Renfrow, really good. But he's limited on, like, the great part about a guy like Tyrell Williams or Ruggs in theory, right? Or they can have the 5 for 140 and 2 touchdowns. Right, that's what outside explosive wide receivers do. And it just, as we've seen, it's hard. It's why you become such a legend. Like, the best case scenario is like Randy Moss rookie. But when you're just a rookie who starts having like 130-yard games, you start putting those together, you become like, wow. It's not normal for that to happen. And clearly the Raiders, I like all these guys' talent, but they're depending on them, right? Just let Henry and Edwards take their time. Like, no.
Right.
How many targets would you expect Week 1 combined for those two guys? Like 12, 13?
Wait, 2 guys or 3 guys?
Yeah, I'm just not Bowden, just Edwards and Ruggs Week 1.
Well,
13 to 15 touches. Like, they'll attempt to get them the ball that much on end rounds and throw them the ball.
I would think Bowden maybe gets a touch or 2 that way too, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't, like you said, you like Renfrow, but there's a reason you draft 3 wide receivers in your first 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, right? Which is, he can't be your leading receiver, which is what he was last year. I mean, wide receiver. Darren Waller led the team, right?
Yeah.
But who was their second leading receiver? Oh, so I guess Tyrell was second, and then Zay Jones. Like, it was 2 tight ends and a bunch of running backs. They caught passes for them after that. So,
well, it's why they went all in. But I would imagine this offseason, before he hurts his shoulder or labrum or whatever happened to place him on IR, and he was hoping to play through it, and clearly putting him in IR, just get to the point where you just have the surgery, maybe you can come back by the end of the year. The IR rules, remember, it used to be 1, and then with Corona, I think they've added 3, so you just never know. Last year, the Niners with Quan Alexander, I think everyone thought when he tore his shoulder, he was out, and shit, he came back.
Yeah.
So you just, in these times, to me, it always makes sense, just get the surgery, then the recovery. And I understand where guys get talked into it, but you always like, he never was the same. Just get the surgery and come back if you can make the season or next year. It sucks because I bet to him, everything I've read about, I always liked him when he was on the Chargers. It has to feel like I got all this money, I came here, I was going to be good, and then last year wasn't his ankle, it was always hurting his foot, and this year it's the shoulder. You just got to be like, am I snake bitten here? Because I now our team's good. I'm going to be, even if I'm not a true 1, I'm going to get a lot of touches. I'm definitely the most experienced guy of the group. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, it
I do
just
too.
sucks.
Yeah, and you knew he was just
Small school. Remember, he's like D2 from Oregon. I mean, his story's incredible.
from a team perspective, he was just super reliable. Like you just knew if he was on the field, you knew what you were getting from him. And that's where I look at this team and go, does it dramatically change their ceiling? I don't know. I would say no. It does potentially change their floor, right? Like if Ruggs can just be an impact player, and one of those other two rookies, one of the 2 third-round guys can be impactful, be a reliable starter, then they're in really good shape. They're not going to miss him in the end because if Waller's good and Renfro just has a similar year and Jacobs is healthy, they run the ball. Like to me, their ceiling is not dramatically impacted by this, but I think their floor is if those guys aren't ready to play.
And I think before we place a bet on them early in the season, to me, they're a team. I still like them. I just want to see it for a couple weeks probably, just because they do have a lot of new pieces that they're depending on defense and on offense. But clearly Gruden's going to want to be more explosive in the passing game, right? And that's why he drafted – I would say one of the sneaky shockers of the night was when Henry Ruggs' name was read first, right? I think most people thought my gut told me Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. So when they said Henry Ruggs, that was a pretty big – not that he wasn't worthy of a top 15 pick, but I just think other people thought the other 2 guys were going to go before him, right?
Yep.
Now, he was the one guy when you watched Alabama at any moment could go like 90. I mean, I guess they all could, but he could get there the fastest.
Well, that was the other thing is like with Williams healthy, 4 or 5 catches and 1 big play from Henry Ruggs, like you'd go, all right, we're off to a start now, right?
Exactly.
You try to get 7 to Waller.
I'd say historically, to be a good offense, you need some veteran pieces in the wide receiver room, and I'd say starting with Williams and Renfro. And then adding those guys, that's a pretty good start. Like Renfro proved he can be a slot receiver.
It's a deep room.
Yeah, and it's to me the ceiling of it is like, God, if Ruggs and Edwards, one of those 2 hits, like this could be a good fucking unit.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, it's just a lot of pressure on these rookies.
There is.